I'm Jordan here along with Udon, Corey, and Edwin. Today episode we're going about horror games. But before we get started, let's go ahead and go around with what we did this weekend. Corey, how about yourself?
Well, I played a substantial amount of Final Fantasy VII. I have been making some pretty solid progress, mainly just trying to go through the main story now, and I'll go back to do the side quest stuff later. I do find myself getting distracted a lot by a lot of the mini games and things like that, but I started hitting a stride this morning, actually, when I turned it on, and I feel like I've put pretty good amount of hours in now. I think I'm sitting at about 15, about 15 or 20, but so far, I'm still digging it. It's definitely more campy, I suppose, with a lot of the mini games and stuff. I did the Notorious Beach scene already. That was like the most recent thing I finished. There's a lot of mini games, but I mean, there was a lot of, it's like, oh, Tifa and Aerith in the bathing suit. Holy smokes. But, it's not really that big of a deal. There's a boss fight there. And, but it was fun. I mean, there's a lot of mini games at that particular part of the game where you play cards and target practice and soccer with Red 13. But overall, I'm liking it. I played the new season of Fortnite. I'm really liking the Battle Pass lineup. I think it's way better than last time. I like the Greek gods. I think it plays really well. The wings are really fun. The lightning's really fun. And Helldivers. We played a lot of Helldivers. At least we had a good session of Helldivers on Friday. And they added the mechs and stuff, which are really fun to use. And the weather conditions, the meteor showers and whatnot. I don't think we saw a fire tornado, but the meteor shower is pretty good. But aside from those, I didn't really get any new demos or anything like that. So it was fairly low on the amount of gaming that I was doing, besides updating my Ally for PC games. But aside from that,
we can't play the game because you're distracted by the game. Won't let you play.
Yeah, pretty much. So, Jordan, what'd you do?
Myself, I was playing again some more of the Helldivers too, getting myself a little bit more on the new environments, like you just said, with the meteor showers and such. Getting to see all that stuff going on was pretty amazing. Just to know that it's been out for just a short period of time and is already experiencing updates for things for the gamers. I mean, it's an awesome thing to see. They're really definitely paying tribute to the people out there to be sure that they're making a fun game. So that's been really cool on my part. I was actually been really excited. I mean, it was funny seeing that those things are actually quite destructive. The meteor shower itself being very blue and vibrant fucking kills people. That's always funny, but that happens. But I'm super excited for anything else that comes up in the near future for that. It looks like they're definitely trying for new things. That's well needed out there in the gaming community. So that's pretty cool to see. And then just for me, the new update for Fortnite just came out, so that's been really cool too. It's got the Greek gods in there, checking out those new weapons as well as those Icarus wings, going around there flying around feeling like you're a god. It's pretty cool. So I've been digging it. How about you, Udon? How about you?
I don't know. I'm having this weird feeling like I've heard all this before. It's really strange. I can't place my finger on it. It's maybe something due to a technical problem. I don't know. It's really weird. It's almost like we fucking recorded an hour and then it all went down. It's okay.
I just have a gun in my mouth.
That's what I thought you were going to do. Like, I'll be right back. Boom.
Just a better plan.
Back to you.
Total transparency. We recorded an hour of this and then realized that it wasn't recording anything. So that's just great.
I'm fucking sorry, okay?
All right. Mulligan.
It's okay. I'll just reference this every time we're doing this in the future. It's all right. But yeah, pretty much. So my job, I'm listening to Spotify constantly, and I've been listening to those 15 hours you get for audiobooks. And I recently listened to the Cyberpunk audiobook, which made me want to play the game again because I was really enjoying the audiobook. And as soon as I did, PlayStation was like, put the game on sale. He wants to buy the game. Get the game. Put it in his hands. Give me money. And I was like, all right, cool, whatever. Because I had Cyberpunk for my PC. And like I said, I like my PC. It can run Cyberpunk just fine. There's no issue with it. It's powerful enough to do it. But I just vastly prefer, at the couch with my controller, and I feel like I'd play it more, which I'm right. I have already probably doubled the length of the game that I had when I played it on the computer, and I was enjoying it again. And like I said, it's not a redemption story in the same vein as like No Man's Sky, obviously, but compared to when that game came out, at least especially for consoles, runs really well now. There's still glitches, like shit still happens, but as far as it hasn't crashed, all the graphics are fine. Runs at a stable 60 frames per second. I don't feel like I'm being cheated out of anything, so it's running really good. And I'm just having an enjoyable time because I finally figured out a Gorilla Fist fucking build, and running around punching people when they're trying to shoot you dead, and you just feel like you're Superman just eating lead and nothing's happening to you is the best feeling in the world.
That game did have a rough launch. I mean,
all around.
When I was playing it, like it kept unequipping all of my guns. So every time I got into a fight, I was like, "Where the hell?" It was like I had to re-equip everything. It was borderline unplayable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was bad. And like I said, it's not the same redemption as No Man's Sky. We have yet to see something like that happen again. But it's just another thing. It's like came out like shit. Don't get me wrong. I'm firmly in the camp. It's just like games should come out and work. I don't think that's a lot to ask of people.
I'm a simple man.
Yeah, I'm a simple man. I expect things I pay for to work. But yeah, I've been having a lot of fun with that. Playing my Fate Grand Order. Finally getting some new events on that, and my Pokemon Masters, and still playing some Animal Crossing there on the side. But largely it was just Cyberpunk all week. And yeah, I did play with you guys, Helldivers. That was fun. And I did try the new season of Fortnite out. It was pretty decent. I'm a big fan of mythology stuff, so the Greek stuff is fun. Yeah, but other than that, that's pretty much all I've been doing. Just killing people in Night City, choom. Anyways.
Yeah. I was going to say the Fortnite aspect, the login, I don't think I couldn't play it on day one because it was just servers were down.
Well, yeah, I didn't know what the problem was, but I guess like anything else, I mean, I don't know why, because Fortnite, how many fucking seasons have you had at this point? But I guess there was something wrong with the launch, so they delayed it for most of the day, which was the problem.
Yeah, I was in a queue for like 45 minutes, and then it was like, do you want to restart? And I'm like, I'm just going to play something else.
Yeah.
Or then it puts you in a queue and it's like ready now, loading, and then it kicks you out and then gives you another 3 minutes on top of it. Just more salt on the wound, just to play the damn game.
So, Udon, for Cyberpunk, have you seen Edge Runners?
No, I have wanted to watch it. I just kind of mooch off my friend's Netflix, and by that I mean he brings his PlayStation over and we watch it on his PlayStation. So I've been waiting for a chance to watch it with him because I really want to, because obviously those characters were floated around the weeaboo space. And I've heard it's great. I've heard it's good. I want to watch it.
Yeah,
they even added they redid the skill trees. There's actually a whole skill, like an ultimate skill that's called Edge Runner. That's like supposed to be a reference to the anime. It looks really cool.
Yeah, you can do a David build, and it's like super broken or whatever.
Yeah, it's kind of nutty.
I saw a video of that. Freaking awesome.
Yeah.
So Edwin, what did you do this week? Wait, hold on. I'm going to use my power as a premonition. Not a whole lot.
That's what it is.
You were sick, I'm assuming.
Let me guess, you were sick.
Yes, I was sick as fuck because I couldn't do shit this week. So pretty much all I did was just finish Resident Evil 4 and then just play 2 hours of Helldivers, and that was pretty much it. And I was supposed to play Master Chief Collection with Jordan yesterday, but he took too long to answer my messages.
And here we go again.
Here comes the flamethrower.
Yeah.
Well, for not recording this first time. There's more salt in the wound.
Yeah.
Too busy being sick, doing kickflips and shit.
But he did schedule himself a priest.
I wish I could do that. Yeah.
Get that demon out of you, son.
All right, did we cover all the jokes that were said earlier? Yeah. I think we did.
We added a few new ones.
Sorry, too busy not dying.
Well, alrighty then. So I guess we went around. Corey, do you have any news for us today?
It's mildly breaking, considering, but we can go into it.
Put your soul into it.
Yeah. So it's been moderately light this week. So there's a couple things that are notable. Obviously, the Sweet Baby Ink thing is still ongoing, but there's a lot of other people covering it. It's kind of low-hanging fruit, so I don't really care too much about it. Just enough to mention if you want to look up what it is in your own time. There's a plethora of YouTube channels that are covering this content. It's kind of funny, but at the same time, it's one of those
I'm
made their bed
starting
laying
to
it.
just think those companies that do shit like this have like a fucking shame fetish or something. They want to be in the spotlight. And
Well, yeah, and I think it's more of like there's got to be like a tax benefit or something. Like they're not doing this because it's obviously not making games better. I think it's more of like, oh, I'm doing this because it's a tax grift, and like get what you can because it's not going to be there next year.
Making others lose money.
Oh yeah, I mean, because it's like, well, now the game requires you to play with me, so that's $100,000, please, that kind of nonsense. But
yeah,
that's whatever. There was some bigger news amongst all the layoffs that are happening in the industry. Rooster Teeth is shutting down. Not all aspects of Rooster Teeth, as the podcast group and stuff, I think will still be there, but Rooster Teeth as a whole is shutting down. And to me, that's kind of wild because, that's one of like the earliest things that I like on YouTube that I can recall. It's just like Red versus Blue, and I feel like it's just. Well, no, I mean I feel like it's been like a part of our childhood, or not childhood, but like the early YouTube's childhood, right? It's like whenever you were getting gaming content and like silly gaming videos from like not like I guess a corporate side of things, but Rooster Teeth's name was something you would come across, I believe like Funhouse. I think that was one that I watched a lot. But once people started leaving Rooster Teeth after like they got bought by AT&T, and then I think AT&T was absorbed into Warner, the corporate side of things started to push them down into the old brand friendly video format, and a lot of familiar faces started doing their own thing, and I was like, well, I think we know where this is going.
I mean, like I said in some alternate reality that never happened. I don't really feel like that is like just like a death sentence. Like you can work for a corporation within like restraints. Again, you kind of did it to yourself. You understood what the restraints were going in, and you're only limited by your own creativity because some of the we look fondly on like stuff like retro games because of the fact that they had to work within restraints of hardware and stuff, and they had to creatively think their way around problems. Just because you're restrained in some ways doesn't mean that your thing has to be shit.
I think you get to say like what I said for you to say that sentence.
Corey said it. I'm going off what he said. I'm not just pulling out of my ass. Corey literally said that. He said because they went into the corporation, their shit started going downhill.
Like I think that like when higher ups start having plans for what your content is going to be, and you don't get as much creative freedom, but I mean, like you're killing yourself at that point, right? Because it's like if you were to buy a popular YouTube channel, why not let them be what they were? But if you come in and start putting the reins on stuff and like, well, I think you're funny, but maybe you shouldn't say that so much, and then they're like, well, that's like half the audience. They love that joke. That's why I say it all the time. And then.
Okay. Well, I've watched Rooster Teeth for a very long time. It was one of the first YouTube channels that I've actually like started watching when like YouTube first came out. I watched Rooster Teeth all the way from like late elementary school, middle school, and then to the end of high school. That. Like I watched them religiously and every day, but like when I said it was like when you get professional, that's when you start going a bit more downhill. Obviously, it's not like if you go professional, you're automatically going to go down. There's like it depends on what you're doing and how you do it. But a lot of times I see usually when things that I watch other YouTubers and stuff go professional, it usually doesn't end up going that well. But for Rooster Teeth, a lot of stuff that they do, they can't make the same jokes. They can't say like very specific things. They can't be hurtful to like the modern media and all that. It's just really annoying and really stupid, honestly, because now they can't be like they're like no longer the person that you started watching when you started watching them. So it's just really saddening. But
Yeah,
there was,
and
yeah, but there was I didn't say this last time, but there was literally like a point where they made a like a child channel where it's just like, oh, the kids of everyone that already work for the company, like all their kids get to play games.
like YouTube Kids.
Yeah, like YouTube Kids, but it's just like their own version where it's just like a bunch of office kids just like go to that same office and then like start doing mini games and stuff and playing video games. And that shit failed so hard. But then the person who ran it became the boss of everyone else. So it's like, you failed in that one project, but we're going to make you lead everything else. So
dude, welcome to modern media. Like all these fucking movies keep failing, and it's the same fucking directors over and over again.
It kind of sucks because I miss the content. Like what Funhouse, they used to do the Drunk Souls thing where they were all of them on stream, and there's like 10 people in a room, and every time they died, they all took a shot, and they're going to play the game for like 6 hours or something like that. And then there was another one where they would all take a hit from a bong off camera or something.
Jesus Christ, I didn't know about that.
That one was really funny. It was just like, I mean, they all live in California, so it's legal, of course, but it was just funny because it's like they're just gradually getting more and more stoned. I think they were playing Mario Party for that one or something, and it was just golden. But like, obviously, they're not going to do that anymore.
Yeah, it was like you can't do shit like that.
It was so funny though.
Like all the way, you have to go like so far around that. But even then, it's still, if you put that kind of stuff on YouTube, it was like, well, you're not going to get in trouble with your own company. You're going to get in trouble with YouTube.
Yeah,
that's a whole other issue.
They do the Steam dumpster diving thing, and then they would play games that people sent to them, and then like at the end of it, they would do like at the end of the game they would play, they would look to see if there's Rule 34 of that game, which is like really funny. Yeah, obviously they weren't showing that on YouTube, but it was their reaction to what they were finding was really funny.
Yeah, but it's just like that. See, like all that's fun, but it's like corporate overlord won't let you do that anymore because it's not appropriate.
Fun police.
Like, for everyone, but it's just like things like that, and then it's like, oh, we're gonna hire these other people to try and continue making the channel more popular, but then those few people are like handpicked from them who don't know like what fun is, and then those people just suck, and they just bring everyone else down with them.
I feel like
no one asked for this person.
More people need to see that Fairly Odd Parents episode where everything is gray.
Yeah. But it's like, yeah, I highly respected them, but now it's like I stopped watching so long because they were no longer great.
Speaking of Warner and the Rooster Teeth debacle, Warner recently had a flop, and that is the Suicide Squad game.
That was a flop just now. I thought it flopped way sooner.
No, but it led to this. And this, I'm deviating from the timeline because I didn't say this last time. I'm swapping. I'm
going into the beta timeline. Don't do it.
Some other news thing for this one because this is funnier to me. The other one was EA related, but we'll just go here. So Warner Brothers releases a live service game called Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League. It doesn't do very well. So what do? They decide that they want to shift away from volatile AAA games to focus on free-to-play live service games. It's like, you just failed at a live service game. Now, it wasn't free, but you release a game that you were hoping was going to make you $1 billion.
Even if that game was free, no one would be playing it. It wasn't the issue.
Like, yeah, it's strange to me, though, like to say, like, oh, this game I didn't do, or this game I didn't do so well, so I'm going to turn my entire business model into that type of game because I'm scared of not doing that. I don't know. It seems very strange, but like they just released Harry Potter last year, and that was like the best-selling game on Steam for I think the entire year until Baldur's Gate came out.
Is Harry Potter killing Batman?
Well, no, that's probably why it did so well. But it wasn't even like, it's not Harry Potter. It's Hogwarts Legacy. Harry Potter is not in the game at all. Nothing Harry Potter related is in the game. It takes place way before that entire timeline anyways. It's just set in the wizarding world. The game itself looked amazing, sounded amazing. It was not up for any award at the Game Awards, which blows my mind, but I think we all know why. I know there's a lot of controversy around the game, even though it's not even a game. It's around the author of the book franchise. But
that was a whole mess.
That was a whole mess. And like, it's crazy too, because, like, it's just a damn video game, but like the game itself came out and it did awesome in sales. And then the next year they release this game, the Suicide Squad game, and it doesn't do very well. And one of these games is a single player campaign. And that's the one they're like, we're not doing that anymore.
Yeah, that was.
It's like, that was really successful. Never again.
How do we make it more successful? We make it free.
Maybe the person that was like, the person talking about it thought that's what they meant. He's like, no, yeah, that Harry Potter was a really good live service game. They're like, no, that was a single player game. It's like, what? Crap. I need to call the lawyer again.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was kind of funny.
That game's just a hot.
We'll see what happens. I feel like what's going to end up happening in the long run is that Warner is going to end up closing anything that has to do with game development on that side of things. If the next product that they put in, I would imagine they're going to have a couple of years of development for some franchise. But if it doesn't make them any money, they're just going to close that damn studio, and that sucks because all those people that worked on Batman and stuff, like, they didn't have anything to do with the game's design. They were just making the game they were told to make. And then the people are like, damn it, that didn't do so well. We better do that again.
Well, I mean, so the people who made the game are also the ones that wrote the dialogue and the gameplay and stuff. They don't get me like, they probably had to check some boxes, but let's not pretend like they're not completely, they're like completely innocent or something.
Yeah. Let's see. Another thing that dropped this week was the Fallout TV show trailer. Amazon had announced its release date, I believe April 11th, and it's the full season rather than episodic weekly. I hate that shit because it's a streaming service. Just give me the whole damn season. I know that you're trying to nickel and dime people around the free trial.
It's to build up hype.
Because it's like, oh, I get a 2-week free trial to watch that new show and then I can bounce. But like, I'm appreciative that they're going to do that. But I'm not sure if any of you guys had seen the trailer. I think it looked really good. That being said, I don't know narratively how good it is. I know that it's not following any particular game and that it's its own storyline. They're referring to it as their own Fallout 5 because it's so different, even though it's set in the universe. That usually also gives me like a iffy kind of vibes, but it is the Westworld team, and their visual effects team in Westworld was like pretty dope. So I'm interested to see what they're going to do. Though I haven't seen a super mutant.
I haven't seen a single thing about Fallout about that Fallout show, but
you didn't see the trailer?
No, I didn't see the. I haven't seen a single thing about that.
No one's talking
about it.
I've seen the set pieces and stuff. Like, I've seen the props and whatever. And by the way, we're back to the alpha timeline. But
yes.
That's next news.
Yeah, but I saw sets of it, like pictures of like the costumes and stuff, and like the power armor looks pretty good. The ghouls look fine, but I could say the same thing about the Halo TV show and being like, everything looks fantastic, but the show's shit. So it's just like, until the actual show comes out, it just means nothing.
Yeah, and I mean, like if you think about like Fallout 3, what was it like? Oh, I'm looking for my dad. Or Fallout 4, where he's like, oh, I'm looking for my son. I don't know what this one's story is because they didn't really have like a narrative story. It's more of just like a Wastelands story, like trailer where they're like, look at all the crazy shit that's happening. But look, I don't know what her goal is. I don't even know what the point of the entire show is going to be outside of just like her leaving the vault and
Well, let's be
then shit
honest.
hits
If
the fan.
Bethesda's in charge, the fucking story's not going to make any fucking sense, anyways.
They're just waiting for modders to fix it.
Yeah.
They're like, they can fix it. They're like, it's a show. He's like, oh shit.
He's like, wait, what does that mean?
So they can't just make their own episode? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, crap.
Right, well, yeah, it's like shit. That we were riding on that.
Yeah.
It's weird that they would call it Fallout 5. It was like, pretty sure not that many people like Fallout 4, so it's weird that you just go even further in the future rather than like your own world.
I mean, Fallout 4 is fine. I think a lot of people just hate Preston Garvey.
Wasn't that one?
Yeah, Fallout 76 was a monster disappointment
76.
to me.
I forgot.
Well, no one talks about it, but it's still going because people are still playing it. Like as much as it's like much as I don't want to admit that it exists, it does. Like people still play it like pretty heavily. Like there's a substantial fan base for 76, and while Fallout 4 like decent shooting to it, like other than that, the game's kind of shit.
It is pretty slow, but I'm just saying it's weird to like say that your show is like Fallout 5. So now it's like somewhat of an expectation. Fallout 5 to come out, you're just gonna make like somewhat of comparison to the show.
I think it's just
it's like it's supposed to be like the same thing because call it Fallout 5. It's just a weird thing to do. Like when you go and watch Last of Us show, their Halo or Chief show, you don't like compare it to like the next game in the line. Oh, it's an adaptation, not mine.
Yeah.
So it's a weird
I think it's like to
to
play it safe, right? They're just trying to really solidify that they're not basing it off of like things that fan bases have grown so damn attached to outside of just the franchise as a whole. So it's like we made a show about you like not specifically the game you like, just the thing, to kind of ease the beast that is fandom, because we all know when everybody touches something that some group of people like, they are like fine-tooth combing that shit and will lose their minds if something is off. They're like, oh my god.
No, I can't blame him. I'm willing to fucking gatekeep my own shit that I like from the fucking creators.
No,
as soon as you release
I feel
it, that stops from being yours. I mean, at least that's how I feel about it.
Final Fantasy Spirits Within. That movie was so
beautiful,
disappointing. It was so disappointing because it has nothing to do with any of the Final Fantasies that I've seen or that I played, and not necessarily that it's not based on a game that I've played, but it's not even based in like the style of like world building, because it's like it's a sci-fi movie about aliens, and I feel like I think the story of it was they wouldn't get the green light unless they stapled that name to it or something, because like was it Kingsglaive or something like that, the Final Fantasy 15 movie, like not that it was the greatest movie of all time or anything, but at least it was based in on Final Fantasy 15. But when you play Final Fantasy and then you go to the movies to see a Final Fantasy movie and then you're like, what the fuck is this? It's like just a serious movie about ghost aliens, and there's no magic, no swords, nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the hell? So, I think Fallout will definitely deliver a world of Fallout, but whether the story is good, that's anyone's guess, because it could just be dumb as shit.
Let's hope the show doesn't fall out.
See what you did there. God, we end the episode.
Okay,
and the final news, it is really sad. I mean, Akira Toriyama has touched a lot of products and that many of us have come across, not just Dragon Ball, but there's Sandland that's coming out. Me and Edwin were watching Dragon Quest Die, which is a really cool anime. The game came out and I can't even find it anywhere. But Dragon Quest 12, the only thing we got was the title card. We haven't even seen gameplay yet. But I was a big fan of Dragon Quest 11. Square's talking about a Chrono Trigger released like a trailer for a brand new Dragon Ball show where they're all like kids or something. I think it's called like Dragon Ball Alpha, but I'm not sure. I know it was relatively new, but it's so crazy because it was just out of nowhere. You know, it wasn't like he was battling cancer or like he died of old age. You know, he was late 60s and he had a brain bleed from bumping his head, and it's just kind of like, holy shit, you know, like gone way too soon.
Yeah, well, it
and
also came suddenly too, because like I believe he had something in his. Because as far as I understand the situation, he died like March 1st or something, like
yes,
right as the month turned over, and he had it in his will. He wanted to be on the down low when he died, at least initially, so his family could like grieve and do stuff with them, just them only. And I guess the the statutes on that wore off, so it just kind of came out. It's like we was like, oh, Akira Toriyama's sick or whatever, you know. It's like, and he's gone. Like it just came out of nowhere. But yeah,
yeah.
it's incredibly upsetting to mainly the anime community, but it also touches the gaming community. I mean, hell, like pop culture as a whole, because I mean, Goku's so like normies recognize Goku, right? At least the name, you know.
Oh
So
yeah.
many childhoods were molded around Dragon Ball Z. A lot of, especially shonen anime like Naruto, Bleach, My Hero, and stuff like that.
I mean,
One
you could
Piece, they
argue
all
that Dragon Ball Z carried Toonami.
probably, yeah.
Yeah.
Like I would agree to that. Like people watch just for that, and so he's had so much influence not only in Eastern, you know, Japanese media and stuff, but so much influence all over the world based on his works. And again, we repeat, you know, Dragon Ball ad nauseum, right? But it's like he's done other stuff. Obviously, Corey's Precious Chrono Trigger, he did the artwork for, and Dragon Quest is probably the second most known property he has his hands in, on top of I forget what it's called, but he did that other anime with the little robot girl. That one never really, I don't think, got a lot of traction outside of Japan. But
Oh, there's not
help me out.
Sandland,
You know what it is.
but
Help
there's
me out
another
here.
one.
I saw it. I don't remember what the name was.
Either way, he has the influence. I mean, he's almost like on the level of like, you know, someone passing away, like Stan. Like honestly, it's kind of like when Stan Lee passed away.
Yeah.
Just the amount of influence the man has over so many projects, Western, Eastern, doesn't matter. And me personally, I've never been super in love with most of Toriyama's projects. Like as most kids, I was in a Dragon Ball Z, but it wasn't like my, my end all be all my life. I just kind of liked it.
Oh,
And
Dr. Slump.
there you go. That's what it was. And his art style to me has always been back and forth. I like how he does human characters. I'm kind of meh on how he does monsters and stuff. But hearing him dying is like one of those humbling moments when you realize all the stuff that we grew up with, the creators of that, they're all getting older. They're all going to pass away at some point. So it just reminds you, brief reminder of mortality that no one wants to be reminded about.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, on my side too. I like you just said, like just having the different ways of molding around you in your childhood. I mean, that's what I still remember is when I was starting to learn to draw and stuff. I was drawing, watching cartoons, and obviously the ones that I was watching was Toonami, seeing Dragon Ball Z. So drawing Goku, Gohan, all that. That was a very big eye opener for me, just practicing those kind of characters, even though it kind of seemed like there was some similarities between it, but you could tell his art style was very unique compared to others. It was just a very big eye opener for you.
Yeah, instantly recognizable. And it's crazy because, like, I remember the very first episode of Dragon Ball Z that I saw. I remember where I was when I saw it, too, which is, like, very strange, but that's just how much of an impact it was. It was Piccolo was training himself, so he duplicated himself, and then he had to blow up the moon because Gohan turned into a monkey or something like that. And I was like, what is this cartoon? Like, that was so crazy to me when I first saw it, because I everything was like Tom and Jerry and Looney Tunes, and then I saw that and was like, what? This is what they can be? Like, I don't want to watch anything else.
Yeah.
And I had
dopamine, your TV show.
Yeah, my binder was full of Dragon Ball Z pictures that I printed. I think I've probably cost my parents so much in ink from our printer at home from just printing Dragon Ball Z pictures to carry around at school. It's crazy, but like it was such a big part of like my childhood for drawing and everything else. Like it's why I'm drawing and became like an artist today. And so it's really sad news. And I'm sure that we'll continue to see his legacy in many things as it goes forward. I know his son is taking the reins on his, you know, company, so we'll see where
that was
that
the
goes.
other thing, right? Is that like he's obviously trained a lot of people in his art style. Like many people can draw like him. Like I said, it's its own art style. You know, it's the Toriyama trademark art style.
Yeah,
and obviously it's a huge influence on influence. It is Dragon Ball Z. It is what Dragon Quest looks like, right? And you have to think it's like, well, what happens to Dragon Ball? What happens to Dragon Quest? You know, and to me, it's like obviously they're going to finish. How they're going to finish? Like I don't know if Toriyama had a book somewhere he wrote down how he wanted Dragon Ball to finally end. I don't know if he has any influence on Dragon Quest, but again, yeah, it's his art style that's the entire game's look, obviously. And it's like thinking about it, how it is going to go in the future. I don't think they're going to stop. Obviously, they'd be silly to do that, but we might see a slowdown, and there might just be something missing here or there now that he's not around anymore. But
yeah.
we'll still be seeing his art style like well into the future in Dragon Ball, Dragon Quest, and how you said last week that they wanted, was it last week? Either way, you brought up before how they were already thinking about doing a Chrono Trigger remake, and then this comes out of nowhere. Are they still going to go through with that? They probably could if they wanted to, because like I said, they have the artists to emulate the art style, but whether they still do it or not is in question, which again, I was planning on getting the game soon. It's going to skyrocket in price now, but it's just one of those things that I really thought about. That was kind of the first thing that brought into my mind, like what's going to happen with all the properties he has. He's either created or has a large hand in creating, essentially.
I know he's been a part of the character design for Dragon Quest for all of them, all the way back to the first one. Mm-hmm. So it's like, that entire gaming franchise, is his legacy, which is crazy as far as like visually. Oddly enough, he does have a sleeper game it was an Xbox 360 exclusive called Blue Dragon. I don't know if you've seen that.
Yeah, I forgot.
It's really cool.
Very colorful.
I think that's one of those games that everyone knows about, but like no one's played. Like everyone's seen the cover of it.
That's me.
I like the concept of it. My roommate had it. I didn't have it, but there's also an anime for it, which is kind of cool. But you see it, and everyone's like, "Oh, is that Goku?" Like, because the main character is spiky black hair. It's like, yeah, it's like, oh no, this is just another thing that he did, and it's kind of cool. Maybe someday I'll get around to playing it, but I have to get my hands on a 360 again.
So Blue Dragon, Dragon Ball, and I wonder what
the man likes dragons. Okay,
yeah, dragons. He found his fantasy creature and was like, "That's the one."
Yeah,
I don't blame him though. Dragons are pretty dope.
Yeah, in his will, he states that he copyrights his art style, so now everyone has to change their art style.
It's just going to be sad, Like I can't imagine like a world where I don't see that art style like in new things.
Right. It's just really nice to see. It's a nice art style.
Yeah, it's just fun. It's so recognizable and it's just so fun. Yeah, but rest in peace, Toriyama.
Yeah, he's up there with the creator of Berserk and Yu-Gi-Oh now.
Yep. Now they all can walk Snake Way together, a million miles.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Oh man. All right. So that's all the news. Sad to end on a bleak thing, of course, but it needed to be mentioned. That's all the news for the week. So I suppose we can hit our poll and get into the topic at hand.
Alrighty, go ahead and get on that one. So, looking through with our polls, the poll question was, what was your favorite horror game? We had Silent Hill, Resident Evil, Outlast, Amnesia, and Fatal Frame. We actually, first time, have a tie. Both had been shown as Silent Hill and Resident Evil being the top for the favorite horror game. How do you guys feel about that?
Well, first of all, be very careful. We're in new territory now. I don't know what's going on anymore. My powers of premonition
have left. You can't tell the future?
No, it's over. I can't do it anymore.
Temporary power.
Yeah. Anyways, I would mostly agree with that. And to anyone who might be thinking, I would have loved to put Dead Space on there, but we were trying to, not have too many repeats on polls. So obviously you can't put every horror game in one poll anyways, but I feel like that's pretty accurate. Silent Hill, and it was Silent Hill and Resident Evil, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's warranted. It's especially Resident Evil, I feel. Silent Hill is obviously really popular. I just feel like people recognize and reference Resident Evil a lot more than Silent Hill.
Well, sadly, I've seen Silent Hill games, but I never actually played Silent Hill myself.
I can respect the hell out of Silent Hill only because, well, not only because, but like when I remember watching like a YouTube dive into it, and like the entire reasoning for the whole iconic mist in the first game was literally just like hardware limitations, so they couldn't show everything to the player, so they just threw mist everywhere. But that just became an icon of the series, and I'm just like, that's really neat. Actually, I like that. Like,
I mean,
it's pretty neat.
It's the whole limitations breed creativity, right? They had to figure out a way to, because they like the hardware limitations didn't allow them to show too much to the player at once, and then it turns into this mist, and it turns into a fucking iconic to the entire series.
Cue the fog machines.
Hang on, I just thought of like a joke, because like how when like fog rolls in, people are just like, oh no, we're entering Silent Hill, but it's just like, now with that information, you could just say, oh no, hardware limitation.
The day is loading.
The day is buffering.
No, yeah, I mean, it's really cool how they utilized the cards they were dealt, and really maximized like that process, rather than just kind of throwing in the towel on it and then being like, well, we can't do this, so let's not do that. They were like, well, we can do it, we just have to do it this way.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, and I mean, for me, just looking for Resident Evil, that was something I played in the beginning. But just besides just seeing some zombies, man, that Silent Hill, that'll fuck you up. That is some weird, disturbing drawings that you see. You're like, Jesus Christ, what's in that guy's head that's doing all that artwork? Because it's fucking weird. And that's where it adds into that horror deal, where it's just like it not only has got that crazy kind of like calm music in the background, but you just go against some really disturbing monsters that just kind of like makes you almost feel like this is a nightmare that you just don't want to get, you just want to get out of. But it's a whole game series, so they've been doing a very good job on that design.
Silent Hill's soundtrack does slap pretty hard. I mean, they have a really awesome musician that's been a part of that for a while now, and I think he's actually reprising his role in the newer one, but I'm not too sure on that. I remember hearing something about it, but
it's fun to think about, actually, because as far as I am aware, Silent Hill is like, well, there's still like fucked up creepy monsters and shit, but like the point of the game is that like it's always like something having to do with like the psychological internal like trauma of whoever is going through Silent Hill, right? Whereas Resident Evil is a very physical like game. Like nothing's like a metaphor. It's just like, there's a fucked up corporation that doesn't understand how medicine works, and the rest of the world's suffering for it. Go shoot them. Yeah,
funny way to put it.
Can't sweep this under the rug.
Yeah, so it's very
the
like
whole
physical.
city.
It's like a real horror as opposed to a quote unquote psychological horror, and that people enjoy both pretty equally. Horror is a funny thing. I've always found that, like, in general, really interesting. It's like people enjoy the primal reaction of like feeling like you're going to be hurt or dead, essentially. It's very strange.
Well, it's weird, like, knowing what the Silent Hill lore is, because you're playing a game where the literal lore of the Mist and Silent Hill is you can't win against. So it's just like you're playing a game knowing that you're just going to lose. So you're just there for the experience.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's, Silent Hill and Resident Evil 2 are such powerhouses of like the horror genre games that both of them have multiple movies. Not to say that Silent Hill has more than two, but they were noticed enough to where like they even had theatrical releases. Resident Evil's was a little more strange because it definitely turns into an action movie.
God.
But Silent Hill is kind of toss-up to some moviegoers. Now, if I were to take off my movie analysis glasses and just look at it as whether or not it represented the product it was based on, I think Silent Hill is one of the best game movie adaptations, not counting Mario because it's animated, or not counting any animated things in general, but the set pieces, the music, all of it was way accurate to the actual game, which was kind of nice. The second movie was weird as shit and not very good because it suffered from everything that was in the era of 3D movies where people are reaching at the screen to look like they're coming at you, and it's even Resident Evil has so one of those where it's just this is so stupid. Don't do that.
It's Resident Evil is no longer considered as much of a horror game as it used to be, because
not after 6.
Well, definitely. Well, I saw gameplay of it, and it's just this is the most horror game I've ever seen.
I think it kind of went down the same path as Dead Space, right? As they went into sequels, it became less about the horror and more about action combat,
shooting zombies.
I think they kind of fixed that with not Village, but the one that came before it, when they had a shift into first person.
Oh, 7.
7, yeah. I felt like that game was really creepy. I don't really care for Village. I think that one was a bit of a downgrade compared to the previous one.
Not necessarily Lady Dimitrescu. That's the upgrade.
Okay, here's the funny story about that, right? So I have a friend. He loves Resident Evil. I've personally never touched a Resident Evil game in my life. And yeah,
wow.
It's over. Listen. I have Resident Evil 4 over there somewhere in a PS2 case. I'll get around to it eventually. And
not even the original Resident Evil 2.
I haven't reached over yet, but I'll get over there when I get to it.
I don't know how many times
we're not going to talk about how I have Game Pass and I have 4 Resident Evils I can play at literally any point I want to. But so he loves Resident Evil, and the Resident Evil Village was coming out, and I knew about Lady Dimitrescu, or however you want to pronounce it. I was basically hey, I'll buy. It's hey, I'll make you a deal. I'm I'll buy you the game. Come over here and let me watch you play that section with her in it. And then as soon as you're good with that, you can leave.
So the first part of the game.
So I bought him the game. He plays through the whole vampire section, and then it was. And at first, I was "What? That was it? Oh, okay. Well, get out of my house. I'm done."
We're done here.
Yeah,
I heard a bit of fapping sound and near the middle part of it. What were you doing?
Yeah, I was right next to him. I have witnesses.
You can see me.
No shame. No shame at all. I did like the shift in the first person, though. I thought that was really interesting. I feel like that does make it a bit scarier at times, as opposed to third person. But I say that, and then I think about Dead Space, and I'm nah. I'd probably still
Dead Space in first person would be fucking awesome.
It would kind of be. Well, I disagree, because then you lose
the purpose of some stuff.
Well, yeah, it would defeat the purpose of the entire amazing UI system.
Well, yeah, the health system on his back. But if they did it properly, it might actually feel like a very terrifying Metroid.
VR, that would suck. That'd be crazy.
Well, no, I guess they technically did, didn't they? They had a stupid on-rails shooter for Dead Space. Remember?
Oh yeah, no, I played that. I've consumed all of Dead Space's media, and I think it was a Wii game, a Wii puzzle game.
Yeah, it was a Wii. It was a Wii on-rails shooter. It was an on-rails shooter.
Speaking of, Resident Evil does have one of those. It's the Umbrella Chronicles. I have it on the Wii. And I have it right next to it.
It was decent, but it's a rail shooter, so take it high.
Rail shooters are not fun. They're fun
good
in
for
an arcade.
Well, the reason that I like the Umbrella Chronicles is because it goes through each part of the game all in one disc. But obviously, it's just a rail shooter. But it was still pretty neat. Just go through the entire series, just like that. That was the reason that I liked it, because there's some parts of Resident Evil I never even played.
Well,
I just experienced through that.
I think on-rail shooters, I think they're fun for one try. You play through it once, and there's no point in ever playing it again.
Going to an arcade.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Silent Hill even has spin-offs, which is kind of terrible. But
not so Silent Hill.
Silent Hill, because it's a Konami product, and Konami kind of abandoned everything except for Yu-Gi-Oh, but Silent Hill has pachinko games. Obviously just for gambling, and they have a slot machine game. But so does Resident Evil, which is really interesting because they're not based on the movies. There's the slot machine game is based on the actual video games, and I believe the Silent Hill one is based on Silent Hill 3, and the Resident Evil game is based on Resident Evil 2. And I think I've played both of them when I went to Vegas one time, but it's not a slot machine that I would really play for slot machine purposes. But it's kind of funny to see them because
the horror comes in when you look at your fucking wallet. That's scary.
You're like, oh, I'm terrified. I lost $300. But it's funny because it's like you're not going to walk around on the floor and be like, hey, look, Mario Party slot machine. It's like Silent Hill, really?
Yeah, it's weird.
That game?
Actually, a Mario Party slot machine does sound pretty cool.
Well, yeah, exactly right. It would lean into the fact that it's a gambling mechanic, but I never played Silent Hill The Room and was like, God, I wish this was like a...
Give us your money. We're not even trying to hide it anymore.
Yeah. Oh, I'm Pyramid Head. If you get 3 sevens, I'll go away.
But you got to gamble against other people, so you're all just stealing each other's money.
Well, there's a horror movie. The idea right there is you're playing a slot machine against other people, and whoever loses the game dies or whatever. Insert Saw here, but So I mean, we're all pretty familiar with the franchises outside of not necessarily playing any of the Resident Evils, but I know that you're familiar with Resident Evil. What would be the most famous to you that you've heard of?
As far as Resident Evil's concerned?
Yes. Yeah, we can go through the franchises plus the other games on the list.
Yeah,
so
it's 4 hands down. 4 is iconic to so many people, and that's always the one I hear. That's the only one I own on physical, a physical edition of, because I know how good it is from people singing its praises all the time. It's 4, hands down. I hear murmurings about 2 and 3 occasionally. They're not terrible, but 4 is the one that always gets brought up in conversation every time, hands down.
Yeah. Resident Evil 4 is pretty much the icon of Resident Evil, mainly because the game was really good and also because Leon is a really good character.
Well, it was that beginning part time when they still had that bits and pieces of horror in it with that shooter before it went way off fucking course with 5 and 6 and so on.
Well,
but
yeah, and 5 is it has some panic moments, but it's mostly because they really focused on the co-op aspect of it, and then 6 is just totally fucking Gears of War.
Draft getting blown.
5 is decent, but 6 is way off the rails.
5 is only decent if you play with somebody. I know that me and Jordan were playing together, and I think we also played 6 together because 6 is funny.
Funny, so dumb.
Resident Evil 4 changed the entire format of the game, which for the better, I would say, because tank controls are kind of dog shit. And there's an indie game, I can't remember what it's called right now. I mentioned it in I think maybe the first or second episode, but it's an inspired game from Resident Evil, where they have the iconic monster head turn when you see the first zombie. They have tank controls, but you can actually switch to modern controls, and thank God, because the game's damn near unplayable with tank controls because they just suck so much. But
those
Resident Evil 4 was
those
awesome.
Corner angles were so goddamn annoying.
Oh yeah.
God.
But I think developing Resident Evil 4 also spawned a lot of other things, because I believe Devil May Cry was supposed to be Resident Evil 4, but
Resident Evil 4 originally sounded like it was supposed to be what Lords of the Fallen was, where it's 2 different realms, and then Leon can look through both of them. And then it's really weird to think of right now, because Lords of the Fallen is what Resident Evil 4 was supposed to be originally.
Oh,
it's weird to think about.
And to correct it wasn't Devil May Cry was supposed to be Resident Evil 4, because Devil May Cry spawned from a glitch that was happening when they were developing Onimusha. But yeah, Capcom. But I mean, I would say that Resident Evil 4 is probably the most notorious of that entire franchise. Though I know one of the more cult classics is Code Veronica X. I know a lot of people do like that one. It was on Dreamcast and then remade to PS2. That one is supposed to get an actual remake treatment like the other ones because of the the fan base. It does have the Resident Evil nonsense of like, what the fuck what are you talking? Like Chris Redfield shows up in an F-15 and you're just like, what?
Yeah.
But I mean, the same thing happens in Resident Evil Village, right? Is like Chris Redfield built a tank in the basement of that guy's place, and he's like, "Get in this." I put it together, and you're like, "How?"
It's very
that was weird.
You get number 5 where fucking Chris is punching a fucking boulder with his bare
the boulder
hands.
punch. Yeah, they mentioned that in the newest Resident Evil. He's like that boulder punching asshole or whatever. And that's funny.
It's very hammy, very campy. Like the dialogue in some of those earlier games is just like people quote Leon as being very quippy. You know, he just says fucking weird shit all the time. You know, it's iconic lines.
Women.
Well, the animated movies of Resident Evil are pretty cool, and I think Resident Evil 2 was Leon's first day at work, which
fucking
would
sucks.
just quit, bro. Go work at Home Depot.
Did he even get hired? He's still shadowing. Do you want to do this?
It's like I'm here to meet my my intern, like captain or whatever. But yeah, I mean, Resident Evil 2 though was pretty like. I have a lot of fond memories of that. I remember on the cover of Resident Evil 2 was an opportunity to mail in like a thing, and then you could win to be a part of the movie way before they even actually did the movie. So tells me there must have been a movie in the works and they canceled it or something.
But wasn't that this is not horror related, but wasn't there? I think it was either Dying Light or Saints Row 3, where it's just like if you gave like $1 million, they'll make a movie and then you'll star in it. But then a movie was never made because no one ever donated $1 million to like their project.
I think I heard something about that. Yeah, it might have been a Saints Row thing because that sounds very Saints Row.
I'm also brave of them to assume they can make a movie with $1 million nowadays.
Yeah. It's crazy though because like Resident Evil does get a lot of like notoriety and. Even the spin-offs like of horror games in general, or like of the two Silent Hill and Resident Evil, like you don't see a lot of Silent Hill spin-offs. I mean, I know a lot of people try it, and you could say that it's inspired by Silent Hill because of the PT was the playable trailer, which was supposed to be a Silent Hill game. And you're talking about like psychological horror elements, of course, with less of a focus on combat and more of a focus on puzzle solving and surviving. Resident Evil has always been about getting enough ammo and then you're fine, basically. Yeah, ink ribbons, yeah, saving the damn game. Because Resident Evil, I can name games that have been inspired by it, which is like that, well, the one indie game, of course. There's one called Crow County or Crow Country or something, which is like another indie game that's kind of fun. I tried the demo of that. Then there's what's the game called? I know that you played it, Edwin. Daymare.
Yeah, that game was okay.
Yeah,
okay.
It has a very similar over-the-shoulder Resident Evil 4 style play with like zombies and whatever. And then they have two of them, so like the first one must have done well enough to justify another one. And then another game that's inspired by Capcom. Well, I think it is Capcom, but inspired by Resident Evil, that I would love to see get a remake treatment. And I don't think it is, even though it has kind of been teased a little bit. And I know there is a Kickstarter game that was funded that's a spiritual successor that's inspired by it, but Dino Crisis.
Oh, my friend. Oh, here's a funny story, right? Dino Crisis. Right. So basically, it's Resident Evil with dinosaurs. What's funny is that my friend had been looking for that game for a really same friend who loves Resident Evil, by the way. He's been trying to find that game forever, and he only just found it at the retro game store that we went to like a couple weeks ago. Because the last like 3 times we went there, he had struck out each time, but he finally found it. And it's funny because I think it was called Fossil Fuel or something like that too. There's
Fossil
something.
Fighter?
No. God no. Fuck, what was it? I'm gonna have to fucking try and find it on the Xbox store or something, because it was like a spiritual successor. It wasn't from the same people. It was an indie game, but it was inspired by Dino Crisis. It's like a game, it's a horror game. You're stuck on an island, a bunch of dinosaurs trying to kill you. It's like I say, it's just funny that you bring it up because my friend has been itching to play that forever. And I saw him playing that spiritual
Dino
successor. Dino, I don't know. It's Dino fucking some fossil Dino. I don't fucking know. All I know is I saw him playing, and I'm like, you find the weirdest shit.
It's kind of cool because it is just dinosaurs, but Resident Evil.
Why the fuck you wouldn't think a dinosaur is scary?
Dinosaurs are pretty fucking scary.
Velociraptor looking for you? Good God.
Oh, it must be. This game Dino Break looks exactly like Dino Crisis.
Dino Break?
But there's another one that the graphics are actually like really good, and it was on Kickstarter.
Velociraptor breakdancing?
Whatever. Yeah, that's what it is. But
served.
like it's kind of fun to see that. I liked that overall. But like I know that those are just two games, right? That are just top down, except for Resident Evil goes into more of a third person like an action horror, I suppose. And the Dino Crisis franchise does take the Resident Evil spin, but way faster, because I think there's only 3 of them. And I think in the third one, you're in space, and you have like a jetpack, and there's like an alien T-Rex, and I don't know. It gets very weird, very quick. Whereas Resident Evil had an entire library of games to get strange, because even though it's called Resident Evil 5, there's plenty before that one. More than just the 4, of course. There's all the damn spin-offs.
No, it's fossil fuel. Sorry, I was looking this up this entire time. It's fossil fuel. It's Fossil Fuel 2 specifically. Yeah, turn up the volume, turn off the lights, and get ready for the definitive Jurassic survival horror experience. Yeah, that's what he was playing.
Oh, this one actually looks cool.
this one actually looks good.
Yeah, the graphics
for the horror of a lifetime. Global warming. Fossil.
Yeah, it's fucking.
I mean, I agree. It's kind of a weird name for a horror game, but like I said, I just remember it was Fossil something.
That's kind of fun. It reminds me of there was this like Counter-Strike mod or something like that had dinosaurs, and that's pretty funny.
I mean, here's the thing. It's like horror games it's so weird what you get scared of by, it's like some people get scared by zombies, some people get scared by dinosaurs, obviously. It's like 2 different complete spectrums. And it not only did I say earlier, like, about how it's funny that people want to be scared. It's just one of those weird things. Same thing with people who like spicy food. It's like I love it so much. It hurts so bad. It's literally hurting my body, but I want more. But
true.
It's just a weird thing because I feel like games, in a sense, do horror the best because it's putting you in the shoes, right? You're in control. It's you. Even if you're playing a different character, you're in control of everything you're doing. It's not like a horror movie when you're sitting there and be like, oh, don't go in there. Don't go in there. Oh, you're dead. You shouldn't have gone in there.
Yeah.
Where you're playing the game, it's like, fuck, I got to go in there. It has the thing I need to open the door.
And I guess it's also that feeling where you feel basically helpless. Like there's really nothing you can do. It's like almost close to you're basically just gambling every time you jump into something that's terrifying.
Well, that's a fun talking point too, right? It's like, are you helpless though? Like, which games do horror better? Because there's always this thing that people sometimes say. Yes, I'm being very specific. I've heard it multiple times. It's like the good horror games are the ones where you don't have a gun, any way to defend yourself. Whereas you lock me in a room with dead space in a dark room in the right setting, I'm gonna shit myself. Like, it doesn't matter if I have a gun and it can shoot the necromorphs. The sound design and the lighting combined with the setting and everything just makes this whole experience terrifying, as opposed to like something in like Amnesia, which is also scary, but that's when you're really helpless, right? The only thing you can do is run and hide.
Yeah, and God forbid your lantern goes out.
Yeah, but somehow both of these experiences deliver on the horror, even though in one you shoot the thing that's coming at you, the other one you run away like a bitch.
Well, I know for sure those fucking things in Dead Space are extremely disturbing. Like the baby looking things that were on that Jesus Christ, like those things are fucking
the necromorphs.
I think
It's like in Amnesia, there's like 2 things that you're fighting. It's pretty much just like those enemies and then your own sanity is also trying to betray you. So it's just like it. Horror is like this is similar to comedy, where it's just like, what will people laugh at, or what will people be scared of? Because Corey and I saw The Nun, the original one, and then that thing was boring as hell, and we both fell asleep at different halves of the movie. And then the second one
we
wasn't
put the
really
pieces together.
Yeah, and then the second, the Nun 2, was like not scary at all. It was like maybe the first part of maybe the first couple of minutes kind of was, but then the rest of it was not really. It gave that what do you say? It was like Uncharted by the end of the movie.
Yeah, it was just kind of like, what the hell are they doing? Like it's starting to feel more like an adventure instead of like a scary like thing.
Yeah, and then
but
and then
yeah,
like
no,
jump scares are like cheap shot of all that, and like in the sense of horror jumps cheap.
Yeah, I mean the horror genre in general, like has been. It's kind of funny because like it's probably the most replicated in like the indie market because people just make these like Slender Man type games where it's I just walk around and try not to get killed by the thing while I find some stuff, and they're like, I did it, I made like a great game, but like it doesn't necessarily mean like Slenderman wasn't great because that it's the atmosphere, and then going off of Dead Space with him Isaac has a gun and armor, but in a different setting you would be like, well, I'm not scared, I got fucking room. But like the claustrophobic aspect of Dead Space is like, I know I have a gun, but there's like 12 of them in the hallway and I only see 4 of them.
Yeah, well, it has everything to do with atmosphere, right? Because when I was playing Dead Space Remake, the combination of the lighting and stuff, because the game director in the Dead Space Remake will literally just make sounds. Nothing will happen. It's literally just there to fuck with you, and you're just like, was that some fucking necromorph spawning out of the goddamn vent? It's like, it's fucking dark as shit. I think one of the worst parts of the game is that you have to take a battery out of a wall, and you have to get this battery to open this door to continue, and your choices are either take the battery out of the light socket or the oxygen socket. So you either have to give up your oxygen or give up the lights, and I'm like, you motherfuckers, you're gonna make me choose which one I'm gonna have to take rid of. And I chose the lights because then I'm not on a timer. But it's so much worse because they are forcing you, the player, to put yourself in that situation of like, you turned off the lights, we didn't have to do shit.
Yeah. And it's fun because like, that is like a third person, action game in a sense of like all of the controls. It's just like the setting of it. When you get into like Dead Space 3, it's not so much, but the first one nails it. Like, it's because you're on the Ishimura, and it's just like, tight corridors and a lot of oh shit moments.
Yeah,
and even the jump scares, but a lot of the jump scares, you even see them coming. You're just looking at the thing, and you're like, oh fuck, I gotta walk over to that. It's gonna get up.
Well, yeah, I mean, sometimes you can see it coming, but like I said, the game director, like I said, I said it before, but the remake, for anyone who hasn't played Dead Space, that's how you want to experience this game. The remake is superior to the original in every way. But that being said, the game director can just make things happen just to fuck with you. Like sometimes he'll just blow the lids off of vents and nothing will come out of it. Other times the lid will blow off and there's a necromorph. So every time you're looking at it, you're like, it's like, it wasn't anything this time. And it's like, and you hear something that's like, you're not going to fool me again. Then you're like, fuck.
Yeah.
And I think Edwin was saying, like, you were comparing it to comedy. And I do agree on some levels, but I do feel like horror can be, you can cheat with horror in the sense that you make it really cheap. Because like you said, hi cat. You guys fell asleep watching that Nun, right? So like jump scares, it's like I don't get scared at jump scares, but it's just human reaction if you're just sitting there and someone just comes up out of nowhere really loud and sudden just be like, bleh! It's like haha, you jumped, you were scared. It's like, yeah, I fucking jumped. Are you proud of yourself? It's like, it was just human reaction. You can't really do that with comedy. You can't like cheat with comedy. Essentially, it's just like laugh and you're which rude. Anyways, but it's just like you can't just look at someone and be like, you can't jump out and be like, laugh. It's like, why didn't that work?
I just told a joke, damn it.
Throw $1,000 at him.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm fair. That's the universal cheat code, though. That's not.
Actually, I think the equivalent to a jump scare would be the laugh track, because that without the laugh track, a lot of those moments are just really awkward.
I guess, but I guess I agree to a certain extent. It is like telling, it is like being like, laugh. You should be laughing now, but it's not like forcing you to. Not like a jump scare. Typically, unless you have nerves of steel, is going to make you jump in some way, shape, or form, and it just feels cheap because it's just your reaction as a human, you know.
I think that like the horror game aspect too, like, or the horror game aspect, but like the jump scare aspect, it's like more of like it's more fun in a group setting, because it's like if everybody's something that I did back in college as Outlast came out.
Oh yeah,
I had a bunch of people come over. You know,
I was
we were
there.
all watching. Yeah, we were all watching me play it. And so everybody's kind of like freaking out. And then, so everyone's freaking out about different things because everyone has like a different horror tolerance. But like, that's the fun part, because it's like, don't go in there, don't go in there. You know, someone's yelling and you're like, well, I'm going to do it now because it's freaking you out. But then like, I'll get scared because something else happens. And then it turns into this whole panic, like, you know, the panic and run part of that game, because like you can't fight anything, you know, oh, my batteries in the camera died or my flashlight's dead or something like that, you know. And then if you get killed, the downside, of course, with that format is it's scary, and then you die 5 or 6 times, and it's not scary anymore, and you're just trying to get by it because it's annoying.
Yeah. It's like, I want to get to the next scare. I mean, here's the thing. I also feel like that's a cheat code for life, too. It's like, it's more fun with friends. I'm like, everything's more fun with friends. I had a blast playing Fallout 76 with my friends when it first came out. And it was because it was with my friends, because we were laughing at how shit the game was. It's like, yes, I had fun with Fallout 76 because I was with my friends. And because, I mean, personally, if you want my personal opinion, I think Outlast is kind of shit. Outlast, like, relies way too much on jump scares in order to, like, convey horror.
It definitely had a weird story.
More than Five Nights at Freddy's.
Oh, no, I would never defend Five Nights at Freddy's and saying that, like, here's the thing. I think as far as Five Nights at Freddy's goes, and I don't want to get super into it because it's shallow in a sense, but
I like the story.
Well, I mean, it was fine for a while until it went completely off the rails.
You'll be
but
right.
what I'm saying is the first and second one, I want to say there was an atmosphere to that game that was creepy beyond the silly jump scares. But past like the first and second game, it became less and less about that. And it was just like, oh, what's gonna happen? It's like, bleh! It's like, oh, okay. It's like, yeah, I jumped, but there's no more horror. Like it just became more and more like the atmosphere just wasn't doing it for me anymore. I only felt it during like the first one.
Yeah, Outlast 1 and 2. I don't even know what the third one is about, but they're definitely like they're more of a horror game than a lot of so-called horror games. But
I mean, I would never not call it a horror game. I just feel like it's low tier compared to something like Dead Space or like Resident Evil, essentially.
Yeah, well, it's I've seen both of them, but they both are creepy in their own way, because the first one is just horrific. Meanwhile, the second one is just downright gross. It like doubles down on the grossness. It's just really disturbing in that own way.
It links into like the Saw aspect of horror.
But then that brings it up. Is it scary or is it gross? Like I mean, I know body horror like as a term is a thing, but are you being scared at that? Or are you sitting there, you know, cringing and stuff because you're like,
I think it's more of like the cringe, like, oh shit, you know, he's gonna like fucking like stab me or whatever. Like
he's gonna cut off my dick.
Because the first one is like a supernatural horror, while the second one is just more of a like ritual like bodily horror.
Yeah,
I kind of like that. That was like the best way I could.
I mean, the setting is pretty cool. You know, it's. I think the second game's setting is more interesting. With like the cult and all that shit. But yeah, I mean, it as like in like the grand scheme of that game, it's no different than any of the other like walk around, try not to die, you know, follow this path. the puzzles aren't even complicated. It's just level design. Like, oh, there's a monster that's running as fast as he can at you. Turn around and run. Don't look behind you. Yeah. You know, that's basically the whole thing. So it's essentially the Crash Bandicoot level of where the boulder's coming.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's kind of a cheap way to do it, but there's plenty of horror games that are like that. And then you have games like, you know, Fatal Frame. You know, it's totally different because it's not that you have a way to defend yourself, but it's like an unconventional way. And
really
it's
fucking hard.
It's still scary, but it's mostly because of like the jump scares of it, I suppose. When I played the first one on Xbox, the original Xbox, like I couldn't finish. I was like, I don't want to play this. Like I was, you know, like 14 or 13 or something. I was like, I can't play this. It's scary.
It's a difference between. Go ahead, finish. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, but like I have the third one, and I remember playing that one in high school, and was like, you know, it's scary, but like I was interested in the story of it. So it had like a good like thing going, and it was like, I know that there's scary parts, and you get into a new area, and you're like, oh, I don't know what ghosts are here or what I'm doing, but you know, I'm involved now. And I think a lot of horror games lose that element. Is like the plot doesn't thicken. It's just more of the same thing, just a different hallway. You know, in more modern games. Where Fatal Frame was actually telling you a story. But Japanese horror is also very unique in its own way.
That's why I wanted to interject with, is that I used to be a big baby when it came to horror, but then I just got more and more into it, and now horror doesn't, like, I still like it, but I'm not like nearly as much of a pansy anymore when it comes to that sort of stuff. But the funny thing is about, you know, the regional differences in horror, because the one thing that stuck with me as a kid during that time period that still fucks me up and that I don't want to think about as an adult is like The Grudge. That's like my boogeyman. I can't stand that shit. There's just something about Japanese horror that, and I think it has something to do with how they make things move. Everything's like, you know, crookedy, jittery. You know, like jittery and shit. That stuff like scares the absolute piss out of me. And Japanese horror games like really embody that in a lot of ways. Like I said, Fatal Frame does that a lot, or at least embodies it to the point that I'm like, what does it a lot is Siren, which is kind of like probably the next most Japanese horror game people know about, I suppose. It's not super iconic like everything else we've been talking about is, but it's still there. And they have a lot of that in it, basically the jittery motions of people being possessed by shit and stuff like that. Like, I love Junji Ito. Hell, I remember I came over to your house that one time, and that's how I was introduced to it. You had that Junji Ito novel of his Uzumaki thing, and I literally sat there and just read the entire thing over like the 2 days I was there, and I was hooked. I loved it.
I think I have like 5 or 6 of his books, like his like huge books or whatever.
Yeah,
I love the art style from that, and yeah, it's definitely super creepy.
Yeah, and that stuff still creeps me out. It's so fucking weird and gross.
Good storytelling.
Oh yeah.
It's interesting that you bring up Siren, because like I think the scariest part about Siren is that you can see through the enemy's eyes.
Yeah, it had a really weird, like, it's why I didn't play it too much. I had to watch people play it, because like playing it myself, I was like, I have no idea how to do any of this. Like I don't get it. It was a very unique game in terms of gameplay. Like, it was being able to look through every character's eyes, including the enemies, and basically in order to figure out puzzles of how to get through the mission, essentially.
Yeah, it has a very Dawson's Creek kind of like feel to it too, because there's a big cast of characters, and it's like, this chapter you're playing as this guy and he's with his girlfriend, and then this chapter you're playing as the doctor, and then it's all of these people that are a part of like a curse or something. But nothing in that game I think is scarier than when you're like, I'm just going to scan the area and see what enemies are like, where they're at, and then you go to one that's looking at you.
Yeah,
and you're like, where the fuck is he at? Because this one's coming over here and I don't know where he is.
Hey.
Yeah, but I think there's a Siren 1 on PS2, and then I think there's a PS3 one that was a digital game that came in like chapters.
They had Siren 1, Siren 2, and then they remade the first one, I believe, is how it went. I think. Okay. Don't quote me on that.
It's unfortunate, but my PS3 Fat died, and it had like so many like digital games on it, which is why I like physical copies of games. But it had maybe like 40 or 50 games on the hard drive. I had bought and I purchased like an external hard drive for it, or not external, but like I updated the hard drive of it so that I can have games stored on it. And, it was backwards compatible to everything. And I lost all of those. But Siren was on there. I had some Resident Evil games on there. I think Dead Space 1 was also on there, the digital one. I still have the physical copy of it, but it was... I think I also had like Fatal Frame maybe 2 or something. The one with the pinky promise. That one was kind of creepy. That the main like villain of that one looked like the girl from The Ring or whatever.
Yeah. That's another thing. Fucking Ring creeps me out too. That shit, it's all that Japanese horror shit. I hate it. Fucking weird, fucking pasty white Japanese girls crawling out of fucking TVs and other shit to kill me is fucking. Just don't do that shit.
Get a tan.
Yeah. What do you get out of the way? I can't see the screen.
That's scary when it.
But something I do appreciate more though is like games that throw horror elements in out of nowhere.
Oh like, yeah, or stuff that's like inherently, or I guess inherently like unexpectedly scary, like the fucking piano from Mario 64, right? People reference that a lot. It's like that shit's creepy as fuck, dude.
This is the part of the game where I shit my pants.
Yeah.
The first Uncharted game honestly has probably like one of the coolest like oh shit moments, and I remember playing it and being like I wasn't really into the game, and I was like, oh, it's just he's in a jungle, he's treasure hunting or whatever. And then I let Jordan borrow it. And I think you beat it in like the weekend I let you borrow it. And you're like, you have to play this now. And then I was like, why? You're like, I'm not going to tell you, just play it.
Oh, right.
And then I get to the hall or the scene where like the what was it? The moment happens. And you're just like, what the fuck? Like the game takes like a huge 180. And it's really cool. And, I really appreciate that part about Uncharted is... I was kind of wondering if we were going to see it in the movie, but naturally they didn't really go that way. Because it was trying to be like more of a Marvel superhero style movie. But Uncharted's like plot twist moment was really cool. And then,
or what's another? I was just thinking, I think it was a Metal Gear game where one of the bosses like read memory off of your memory cards and
Psycho Mantis.
Yeah, so that like again, not necessarily horror, but then you're fighting this boss and he's just like, so you really like Jack and Daxter, don't you? And you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah, you're like, how do you know that?
It's whoa.
Yeah, it's like, I see you've been playing a lot of Akiba Strip. Hey, don't tell anybody that.
Keep the shit to yourself.
Sengun, what is it? The
Senran Kagura, one of my favorite series.
You're like, hey, okay, man, just whatever.
Dead or Alive Extreme, 1,000 hours.
Yeah, he just starts like, dude. It's like, what are you doing?
His health starts going down. He's like, oh my god.
He's still feeling depressed. He's like, dude, you gotta get alive. Well, come on.
Yeah, it's like,
you really need to see the rest of this game.
I can help you. I know someone. I'm going to send you his phone number. We're going to get you through this, okay?
Just auto calls him up.
Hotline. Yeah. I know a guy. You'll be all right.
Yeah. But it's, I like, Metal Gear does that. There's an entire game called Parasite Eve, which is just an RPG game that's...
Yeah, that was the one that I played at your house, right? The fucking weird-ass one with, like, turn-based combat and shit. It was so weird.
Yeah, it's that game is story developers, I think, made it, and it's kind of like Square's like horror game,
body horror game. Like it's been living rent free in my head ever since I played it at your house. I'm probably gonna pick it up at some point if I see it at my game store.
Yeah, that one's pretty good. Shadow Hearts is like a horror JRPG.
What was the It was on GameCube. And it was like a one-off game, but it had a bunch of like fucky shit. It was like psychological and started fucking with your GameCube and stuff.
Was it Eternal Darkness? I think it's Eternal Darkness.
Yeah, that was a really crazy horror game too. But that was like, it kind of did the same thing where it was like it had like a almost Amnesia style like sanity system, and then sometimes it would just like fade in creepy faces on the screen if it was like really low and shit. And
the worse it got for you, the game would get scarier and like start putting things that weren't actually there.
Yeah, that was a pretty good one.
My friend had that game. I never had it. I want it. It's definitely a game that's worthy of being in like a collection. I think I'm looking at it right now. It's $160.
Yeah, it's an expensive one because it's rare. In fact, I think I saw it at my store the other day when I was there.
I think there's 2 of them. But
I thought it was just the one.
Oh, maybe they were going to do a second one and they canceled it. Oh, there's stuff for like a Wii U version. Oh, it was canceled. Okay. Yeah, that game, that one is pretty cool. And for it to be just chilling on the GameCube like that, it's interesting that there's like just sleeper game. Like, I'm going to say Zombie U definitely left the Wii U and just was called Zombie or something like that.
Yeah, it's just called Zombie. That's great for about 20 minutes.
But it's kind of a cool roguelike with zombies. I mean, it's not necessarily the scariest game ever, but I think that like Resident Evil was the original scary zombie game, and then zombie games after that did not. There isn't a scary one. Like they just turn into let's kill zombies in funny ways. I mean, what was that one we played on 360? That we didn't even buy the game. We just played the demo a ton. Jordan, it was
Dead Rising.
Yeah, Dead Rising. Yeah, like there was just like kill zombies.
Killing zombies. Again, it's like it can go both ways because Left 4 Dead 2 and I just go straight to 2, but Left 4 Dead 1 and 2, they're technically action, first person shooter games. That it can be scary sometimes. You get in the right situation at least.
Yeah, there's like 2 ways you can go about it in a so-called zombie horror, where it could just be the horror of the zombies themselves, or the effect of the world of zombies. Living in a world of zombies affect the actual living people, and just slowly watch them lose their sanity and go insane. See how they affect the rest of the people.
Yeah, most zombie games become like either survival games or just like action games where you kill zombies. Like they don't do like a scary version anymore. There's another game that was on 360 that isn't underappreciated. It's definitely known, but it hasn't seen a remake or anything, and I know a lot of people would like it. And it's probably the first time a first-person shooter was like with Call of Duty gameplay was scary, and the game's called Fear.
Oh yeah, Fear. Well, it's definitely not unknown. Like it had 3 or 4 sequels, right? It had a ton of sequels. It's
wild that it's so like it's such a well-known game, and like no one has been able to replicate this. Like I wouldn't say Wolfenstein is a scary game, and Doom isn't even a scary game. Like those games are just action games. But like Fear really nails what it was trying to do.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Like even though it was a fucking first-person shooter. Again, small, pasty white girl fucking tearing you, fucking following you around, haunting you and shit. It's the same thing. Fucking creepy as shit. I hate it.
Yeah, I mean, most of the time, like I was saying, or and you mentioned this before, is like people that talk about like, oh, when you give the player a means to defend themselves, it kind of ruins the fear of the game. And this entire game is about like, you're like a Call of Duty guy, and it's like somehow the game is still scary. But, Left 4 Dead, granted, that's a panic version when you're sitting here running around fighting zombies, and then the witch happens, and you're like, oh shit, because like it's just a level of panic. And you have weapons in Silent Hill and you have weapons in Resident Evil, but Resident Evil is not the longer Resident Evil goes on in its main storyline, the less scary it gets and the more like science fiction it gets. But Silent Hill maintains its theme all the way through, and it becomes just more of a fucked up story. And you have a means to defend yourself, but you don't want to fight them because the combat's not necessarily fun. It's kind of clunky. So, like, that kind of leans into the fact that it's like, yeah, you could kill the nurse or whatever, but like you don't want to because you're going to take unnecessary damage by the shitty controls.
Right. You'd rather just avoid it because it's not even worth it.
You know, and you know, but like one of the things that I mentioned before to just friends in general is that like shotguns do ruin like horror experience in most of the games because the game world for some reason likes to think shotguns are like infinitely super powerful like things. You know, Resident Evil, you get one. Granted, if you shot a zombie up close with a shotgun, it would do some fucking damage, of course. But it's like, you know, a buckshot or whatever,
I think,
or like a birdshot isn't what it doesn't do what people think it does in video games. It does pepper the shit out of you.
I think going back to Resident Evil, I think one of the biggest things, because I think people play Silent Hill more for the experience of it, but a big thing about Resident Evil that keeps people like Edwin and everyone else coming back to it, my friend coming back to it, is that because after you played, you know, 1 or 2 times, let's be real, you're not going to be scared by anything that happens in the game anymore. You're playing it because the gameplay itself is really like solid, tight, and like easily like repeatable. You just want to keep doing it over and over again between the really fun inventory management and just the tightness of the shooting and everything, and how rewarding it feels when you do well, keeps people coming back to playing those games over and over again.
You know, me, another good game was Condemned. I don't know if anybody played that one. That was something that I remember fucking playing on 360, going down a dark ass hallway, and then just somebody coming at you with a fucking 2x4 screaming, "Fuck you, I'm gonna fucking kill you." You're like, Jesus, and it comes at you and you're trying to shoot him with a taser gun or some shit. And it was crazy really shit, good. Fucking disturbing shit. 2 was funny. That online thing was just made Corey's friend.
2 was funny. 2 was funny because of the weird superpower your character gets, where you scream so loud people's heads explode. Which is just like it's like your superpower is like aggressive customer service requests. But like the first game, like the graphics at the time were like really good. And the gameplay felt so like visceral, and like the atmosphere of it was awesome because like it's a detective, you're fighting these crazy drugged out like dudes, and it's not really supernatural. It's more of just like, you know, something's going on. There's like a cult involved, and there's
dark. You can't see shit.
Yeah, you're basically fighting like crackheads in the darkness, but It just the impact and everything. Like Dead Space, you know, they really nailed the atmosphere. The second game suffered from the era that many games when it came out did, was it needs to have online team deathmatch, and it's just like I never once turned this game on and was like, I really wish I could fight 4 other people on the opposite side of the map. But actually, it's online was really fun because it was cops. They start outside the crime zone, and then the criminals are inside the crime zone, and the criminals have to hide before the cops are released, and the criminals don't get guns. So you're hiding in the house, and they come into the house, and
they're wearing like, fucking crazy masks and shit, too, like a pig face or some shit. Like, what the fuck?
So you're trying to stop them from solving this murder or whatever, and so you're like hiding in a closet and watch them walk by, and you drop out and grab one of them and take them off. And it was like... is cool because you could pull like a piece of wood off of the wall and beat them with it. But, you know, naturally, if you're just jump out and go, hey, look at me, like the cops are going to gun you down. So like it had a really cool, it's not asymmetric gameplay, but it was like different because of the materials that you have at your disposal versus what they're trying to do.
And, I mean, we meme on it, but like the whole, those like early 2000s games, everything had to have fucking team deathmatch and shit. Some of those games were good because like Dead Space 2, I think it was 2 that had PvP gameplay where you could play as a necromorph. Again, kind of horror-ish because, I mean, granted, you're screaming with your friends, so it's not nearly as bad in a sense.
You get to play as the baby crawling on the walls. Like that's...
Yeah. It's fun. Like... Now the necromorphs are smart, right? You know that's like a person, so it's like, ah, shit. He's going to be like using tactics and stuff. I don't like that.
Yeah, and like I think the better you did, the better the necromorph that you can spawn in as until you become like the Juggernaut.
Yeah.
It's so... Yeah. I mean, it's fun, but like I like the silly shit that they add to them sometimes. I think Evil Within has like an Easter egg room where if you do like a series of like button presses and whatnot at a particular level, a door opens up and then you can see like these zombies that are like dancing to techno music or something.
Well, I think again, I don't know if Silent Hill pioneered that, but they did that too. It's like the silly ending where you get to the end and you go to the control room. And it's like a dog, a dog at the controls, and he's like, "What?
Yeah, it's in the
Shiba Inu the whole time. Yeah,
and there's aliens, and it's such a goofy thing, of course. But I mean, I like the lighthearted joke. Well, they've been like, they probably needed it, right? Because they've just been staring at like blood and gore for
Sir, if I don't get to make a joke with a dog in it, I'm gonna fucking kill myself right now. So I'm staring at all this depressing shit for fucking months and months. I can't take it anymore.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a really important like genre of game. Just like I think it's an important genre of film, because like, granted, there's way more campy or shitty versions of it, but you could say that about everything, I would imagine. But like they can tell like the best stories, like very deep stories. I'm not going to include. We'll talk about RPGs at some other point, of course, because I was going to say like Mass Effect is obviously an amazing story, but there's opportunities to tell like really cool like horror stories, and that aren't just like, oh, and then this demon possessed somebody and I have to exorcise it, or the other like monster is here for monster's sake kind of nonsense. There's cool, interesting lore that people can develop for like scary games, and then the experience you have playing that scary game is even more fun because it's like it makes you feel a part of it because of the way that you're like, oh shit, like on the couch when you have to like peek out of a doorway or something like that.
Or like when you're playing with friends, like when you were talking about before with the amnesia thing, you're like right there and you're playing on the PC, somebody's watching, you're like, go, get fucking close the goddamn door, get the fuck out of the fucking like it's coming right at you. And it's like, holy shit. Yeah, and it's like it fucks everything up.
I mean, Jordan was watching me play Amnesia, and I think we just started playing that game because we saw PewDiePie playing it, and that was back when PewDiePie had like 1,000 subs. Like that's like way early YouTube, but it was just funny watching him scream because of the water part in Amnesia, and like, so I was like, is the game really that scary? So we went and bought it, and then sure enough, it's like, oh shit, like. But it's fun because it's like like an amusement ride. You're like you're a part of it. Instead of it just like playing out in front of you.
Exactly.
And another game that was out there in the 360, and I don't know if anybody else would think of it this way, but that the BioShock game. I mean, that was kind of in my sense kind of like a horror game itself. It was in a dark, lucid area down underground in this water area where basically it was just like shut off from the rest of the world, and you're exploring it and you're seeing some crazy looking cursed people out there. I just really like the aspect of it that you were able to like have superpowers and shit included, but it was still like crazy shit coming at you from all sides. It was very interesting stuff.
Yeah, I think that definitely falls into the camp of like a game that wasn't setting out to be a horror game, but still has like horror elements within it because the splicers are definitely pretty creepy, fucking fucked up humans from dicking with their DNA down in Rapture and shit. And they're definitely unsettling enemies, and fighting a big daddy or something would definitely be a bit nerve wracking.
I've only ever played Infinite, so that's the complete opposite of.
Oh my god!
Infinite is definitely not scary. BioShock 1 and 2 are very like the atmosphere is so good. And oddly enough, it's another franchise that's getting a TV show on Netflix.
But here's the thing, I can at least see that because BioShock has a story. They have a book and stuff. Like, I find BioShock incredibly interesting, except for Infinite. Infinite go fucking rotten hell. Infinite's such a fucking disservice to that entire franchise. Don't even get me started. I'll go out here fucking talk.
I believe the director of
I'm sorry for your experience then.
is the director for the show of BioShock. I think it's a show. I don't know if it's a movie, but they made I Am Legend.
Mm-hmm.
But they also made the new Hunger Games, Ballad of Songbirds. I have not seen that. But
here's the thing: I used to think the I Am Legend movie was good, and then I read the book and I realized the fucking movie's kind of shit. So,
oh, isn't it called Mr. Omega or something like that? Like the actual like book, or I Am Omega?
it probably was at some point. I mean, it got rebranded to I Am Legend, but the book is way better than the fucking movie.
Walks
I've
up and
also
slaps a
seen,
zombie.
yeah. Keep my yeah, like keep the zombie out your mouth.
Trying to get an Austrian slap. Keep your mind in your motherfucking mouth.
But yeah, I mean, BioShock definitely wasn't even like meant to be like a scary game, but like it really feels awesome. Like it has a really good story, and then just I think it has the similar thing that Dead Space has. Is like splicers are creepy, the corridors are tight, so the claustrophobia is really there, and it becomes like a real power struggle. Of course, until late game when you have a lot of the abilities and whatnot, but it's kind of cool, like going in that game blind and just being like, "Holy shit!" I remember watching the trailer for it when it was like the CG trailer of like the Big Daddy drilling through that guy's hand and throwing him off the balcony or whatever. It's like this is super awesome. Like I don't like whatever this game is. Like I want to play it. Yeah. There's a.
I mean, ultimately, horror games are a big part in gaming in general because people point to, like I said, Resident Evil for its fantastic gameplay that keeps people coming back. People point to Dead Space talking about its amazing UI design in the integration of his inventory and his health and everything, and just it seamlessly blends into the world. Stuff like Silent Hill for its like I said, its technical like meta achievements and like how it developed these things crucial to the franchise that were outside of born out of technical limitations. Like I said, the whole mist is because they had to figure out a way to do something about not letting the player see everything, and it becomes a whole integral to the entire thing.
Yeah.
Horror games, it's
well, they're even more popular today, than they used to be. Because like before, it was about like that experience for me at my house, but now because of like streaming and YouTubers and things like that, like people are making horror games just in hoping that one of them will play it, so that it kind of creates this, viral sensation in a sense. Like Markiplier likes to play these games. Like a lot of earlier YouTubers were playing horror games just because people were laughing at the reactions to get them a fan base. Mm-hmm. And so they became kind of like this staple of like, in the indie world, especially, it's like horror games are quote unquote easy to make versus like something that's, more of like an adventure game or RPG, because it is kind of like a walking simulator, but, there's a lot of weird ones out there that are kind of unique. Iron Lung, I believe, is a very strange first-person horror.
Yeah, I was actually thinking about that as you're saying it, because it's like not a lot of like high-budget horror games have come out in a long time. It's the horror genre is kind of being carried by indie stuff right now. Yeah, because of all current horror is all just remakes of old shit. Yeah. All the remade Resident Evil's, remade Dead Space.
Yeah, it's almost pointless to spend, $100 million developing a AAA horror game when like indie people are making silly shit all the time on itch.io, and then it's just like, oh, this weird horror game that's 20 minutes long came out and everybody loves it. And, it's like it cost that dude maybe 1 month to make, but he's just really good at writing and, really, crafty with the programming for the experience that you're going to have.
There's this one developer. He's a Japanese developer. He comes out with these like shorter experiences, but they're all like based on like real world horror. A lot of them about like you usually being like a female protagonist and being like stalked and shit. It's like real world horror. Jacksepticeye plays a lot of the stuff, and I get a lot of the stuff that comes out for him, and I get like really excited when I see him playing like a new one. I'm trying to find what the guy's name was, but it's like really old fashioned kind of like low poly stuff that you would see on like a PS1, PS2 kind of thing. But they're all like really well made. He does a really good job with the horror aspect. It's like when you're like it's like you get used to the people, you get used to your protagonist going like their day-to-day job, and then you slowly start seeing like this guy following you. You turn around and he's like staring at you from afar, not doing anything. He's just there, and you're like, oh, that's a little unsettling, and it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse. They're like little short experiences, like it only takes you like an hour, maybe two, to get through it, but it's always a fun romp every time. And I look forward every time I see his shit come up on like Jacksepticeye's channel. I will watch him play it.
I know there's that one horror game called World of Horror.
Oh, I love that one. No one talks about that, and I have it because it's on the PC Game Pass. But that one is so unique because I don't feel like enough people know about it because it's a rogue-like horror game, and it's heavily inspired by Junji Ito's like art style. So every time you play it, it's kind of like randomizes your setting, what the monster is, whether you get companions, how you fight off the monsters. Again, it's one of those games where there is a combat system, but you kind of don't want to do that because you're not going to win a lot of the times. And just the way they blend everything together and how creepy it is, and it's all this like really old-fashioned like computer style pixel art and stuff like that. It's a game that I don't feel like enough people talk about. I think it's really cool, especially just for its gameplay aspect alone. It being a roguelike horror game, it's crazy.
It definitely was on my radar, like on my wish list or whatever to get into, because I remember seeing the trailer for the first time and I was like, what the hell is this? I definitely want to see this.
Yeah, that guy, his name's Chilla's Art, and actually now that I'm looking at Jacksepticeye's channel, there's a video on an episode of his thing that I have not watched that I will be watching later when I eat dinner. But it's called Chilla's Art. He makes really good like short horror experiences based on like real world stuff.
Okay, interesting.
Well, guys, you guys want to jump into some trivia?
Let's do it.
All right, it's trivia time. So again, I'll be asking you guys multiple choices on these questions. I've got a total of 3 today. The very first question is going to be: now we know what the game's title name is for Fatal Frame in the United States. What is the actual game title in Japan? Is it A, Haunted Photo, B, Soul Frame, C, Zero, or D, Unholy Ground?
D.
Fuck,
really,
I feel
I've
like
heard the answer before.
Yeah, I was just about to say, I feel like I've known this at some point, but I forgot. I want to...
Skira, but that's...
I thought it was going to be something obscure because of the...
You know what, I'll be different. I'll fucking say C.
Good job. The answer was, in fact, C, Zero.
Hey, there we go.
Why 0?
Because the Japanese are weird.
Yeah, it's the only thing higher than 1.
I believe that it's called Zero in Japan, and then in Europe they called it Project Zero. I don't really know why they did name it that way, but that was in fact the name.
I mean,
it's such a cool name, though.
Yeah,
I mean, you asked the director of Godzilla. You asked the director of Godzilla -1 why he named it -1, and you get like a shrug. They just kind of name shit over there.
Ran out of names. Couldn't call it Fighting Camera.
Exactly. Well, now we've got on to the second question here. The video game Silent Hill is based off a real location in what state of the United States? Is it A, Washington, B, Tennessee, C, Vermont, or D, Pennsylvania?
D.
Vermont. C.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I think it's from, again, feel like I've heard this before and I forgot, but I think it's Vermont.
The answer is D, Pennsylvania. Centralia, Pennsylvania, which had a devastating history of a coal mine fire that continues to burn to this day.
Now you say it, that's when I remember.
Put it out.
Why is it still burning?
Harness that hate energy.
Endless s'mores.
That one guy who lit that fire so long ago is like, oh my god, I'm fucking sorry.
We have an energy crisis. When did we discover infinite fire?
Yeah. What the hell is down there besides the gates to hell if all the fun?
A thermal generator in there.
Yeah.
All right, well, now we got the third and final question. In Resident Evil 1, certain aspects of Spencer Mansion were inspired by which famous horror movie? Was it A, Halloween, B, Dead by Dawn, C, Night of the Living Dead, or D, The Shining?
Night of the Living Dead. I believe.
That's tough. I'm going to say C, though, because Night of the Living Dead seems like on the nose, but I feel like it's D.
I'll go with A.
The answer is The Shining. The game's director...
I kind of got it right. It's a half point.
Yeah.
Half point.
The game's director, Shinji Mikami, has credited the film with being an inspiration for when he was designing a lot of the rooms in the game.
Nice. Kudos to him.
It's so many things are inspired by The Shining. I'm afraid that
it's just one of those things.
For everything.
It's just one of those things.
Yep.
Before we close, we forgot to mention the most important horror game that was released: Luigi's Mansion.
Oh, terrifying! Never recover.
Well, all right.
Luigi
So,
won't.
yeah, so it looks like we'll be wrapping it up today. Again, we wanted to share our opinions as what we had experienced with these horror games out there. It's been a lot of fun for us. Yeah, ours.
Very spooky games.
Yarr. So we're basically just going through their experiences.
Hey, this is Corey, and thanks for checking out Mediocre Rumble Brothers. If you liked the video, please drop a like, and if you didn't, that's fine too. If you'd like us to talk about any specific games, drop a comment below, or feel free to discuss your experience with the games that we've mentioned in the episode. You can also listen to our episodes prior to YouTube on our Spotify. Thanks for watching, and hope to see you again soon.